Everybody's Golf, 8-Minute Empire, and Zoo Ball. This is Staying In.
Because we're recording quite late, I haven't. Obviously, it's not. I don't think it's called bitching the pot if you have coffee, is it? Or is it?
Well, yeah, because it's still in a pot, isn't it?
No, you don't make coffee in a pot.
No, but you don't make tea in a pot.
You can make tea in a pot.
You can make coffee in a pot.
Yeah, you can make coffee in a pot, in a coffee pot.
That's a cafetiere.
No, a coffee pot is the... I've seen all 7 seasons of Gilmore Girls. I know how coffee's made. You
are an authority.
They use those little bags.
Yeah.
They've got the coffee in it, the little filter bags. It's what you get filter coffee in one of those little coffee...
So that's a coffee machine?
No, not a coffee machine. Well, the machine makes the coffee, but inside the vestibule that contains the brown chocolatey liquid of coffee is called a coffee pot. You know, it's slightly rotund and it's got the little white handle, and the American people come round and they go, "You want more coffee?
From this coffee pot?"
I mean, you've not ever been around Americans, have you? They don't actually sound like that at all. I tell you what, though, I'm having a dangerous amount of coffee and caffeine for such a late night. Well, it's 9:05.
Oh my God!
Why are you having so much caffeine?
Post watershed.
Well, because it's post watershed, exactly. I'm having it because I'm tired. I've been to the gym, as you can see, with my branded sports
So at
top.
9 o'clock, you're so tired that you can barely keep your eyes open. So you're having to have extra amounts of caffeine just to stay awake.
Dan, the magic that I produce for this recording every fortnight takes energy, discipline.
I just feel sorry for Alex that after this recording she's got to hang out with a hyped up 30-something in
just
sweaty
like,
gym gear.
Oh, have you thought of this thing? Why don't we talk about this thing for 2 hours? Yeah. So I've got that, and I've also got a bounty bar, which I will.
The post-gym snack.
The post-gym snack.
Just when you think that Pete has kind of repaired his diet, we see an evening filled with coffee and bounties.
Caffeine's actually really good pre-exercise
Is it?
treat. Yeah, it's really good because it just helps kickstart your metabolism. So in terms of like breaking down the energy that you need.
So are bounties.
So not so much.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I went to the gym and I misunderstood how energy works?
What? Yeah, electrical energy.
It just didn't turn on the treadmill.
No, I'd not done much exercise before, so I was going to go to the gym on my lunch break. So I was like, you know what, I need some energy. I'm going to go do like a class. So I need some energy for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have something to eat before I go. Which I'm sure you're thinking that's a good idea. Maybe
energy
some
bar.
kind of slow burning energy. So that maybe some
banana.
fruit, maybe banana. Yeah. What I went for was a chicken sandwich, a packet of crisps, and a yogurt.
A child's lunchbox.
Yeah. Literally, I got through the class, it nearly killed me, and then when I got back to the office, I had to go just sit in the bathroom, and just because I thought I'm going to throw up.
Because you thought my yog pots, they're going to be coming back
But
up.
he's so glad he skipped the baby bell.
I had a shower after kind of finishing the workout, and it took me probably like. And when you're in the gym, you go to the shower and you're in it for like 2 minutes, and that's it. You wash and you get out. It's not a place to linger. But I couldn't. I just thought I need to just stay here just with water because it's the only thing.
Just like your hand resting against the tiles, like the water dripping down you, like oh god, like.
That's
what a
not
workout!
Of exaggeration. That's exactly what was happening.
Oh, I can feel the prawn cocktail coming out my pores.
Pretty much. Is it true that they weren't allowed to sell king size chocolate bars anymore? So they just started selling them as 2 small ones. Yeah,
it was part of. It's a genius part of the chocolate industry and how capitalism generally works. So part of the reason like now it's called shrinkflation, is it? Where things that used to be bigger are now a lot smaller than we remembered, and that's partly due to capitalist greed, but it's due to government legislation on things like childhood obesity and all this kind of stuff.
Also, we have bigger hands, so the stuff now looks smaller.
Well,
We do
Yeah.
have bigger hands than when we were young.
So a lot of chocolate companies are basically what they've done is they've to easily get by meeting government standards on like food and the amount of sugar and stuff. It's just to decrease the amount, just the size of the bar, rather than like lessening the amount of sugar and fats that are in it. So
smart.
one of the parts of legislation was that chocolate companies weren't allowed to make, and it was the same thing that prevented McDonald's having supersized meals. They weren't allowed to make like massive king size bars anymore. So one way that Cadbury got around doing this was, instead of having like massive huge bars, was to keep the massive bar but basically split it in two. So then it was up to the person eating it to have the self-restraint not to eat a foot long of chocolate, because they can just go, well, and they advertise it as such, like, it's, Whisper Duo. Have one in your breakfast and then have one for your tea. Whoa, it's sensible eating. But everyone knows they get halfway through a double-decker Duo and just went, no,
I've started, so I'll finish.
No, I'm the sort of person who I've got a little food clip in my pocket, and I just go, oh no, this is my one portion that I've had.
I remember when I was a kid, I'd get a ton of Easter eggs, and I would just generally eat them all in about 48 hours. My sister would just stockpile them. We get to June, and there'd be Easter eggs still on her bookcase.
Well, that's a sensible way to eat food, isn't it?
Also, I like the fact that Kris paused very, very briefly to think, what's a human amount of time to leave to actually consume all the eggs?
So I ate them all in 48 hours.
Hours?
Reminds me a bit of the time when, before I was born, my Auntie Nettie, who we talked about before, she used to live in Geneva for like 10 years as an au pair, like a nanny for kids and things. And she'd send written letters to my mum, her sister. And she knew that my dad really liked tracker bars. Everyone likes that. Everyone in the family, that my dad just used to just forage away and just loves eating tracker bars and nuts and things. And Bombay mix.
Tracker Derby.
So apparently my parents were sat in bed and they got this letter from my auntie from Geneva.
Well, that must have been weird. Postman walks in. Jesus.
No, it was tied to a brick.
An owl.
And my dad saw this picture, this tracker bar-esque thing from Geneva with a picture of a squirrel on it. So he goes, ooh, and being like me, my genes, he starts eating it straight away.
Yeah.
It's barely out of the envelope and he's already halfway through it. And my mum's reading this letter from Nettie saying, oh, Geneva's lovely, went up the Jura Mountains, it was all great, how are you getting on? P.S. Enclosed is a bar for the hamster, Holly.
God's sake.
I mean, to be honest, I don't blame your family. I mean, I know you weren't born, Kris, but I don't think you've ever shared on this podcast the story of the fact that your parents used to have to wait until you'd gone to bed to order Chinese food.
Yeah, it's true. and at about, so it'd be like 11 o'clock at night, they'd hear a creak on the stair, and because I'd come downstairs, I'd smelt it, and I'd come downstairs.
You were still asleep.
Yeah, you'd bolted upright, like in bed,
like Nosferatu.
They've done it again.
So I'd sneak downstairs, and it was like this midnight banquet, like a second dinner, and I'd have a little bit of pork chassoine.
I just love the fact that it's just like they're sitting there starving, and it's just like you, just like, oh well, better go and hit that old dusty trail. It's just like they're just waiting there. It's like, finally, we can eat now.
Yeah. It's like a sort of slightly more middle class Hunger Games, isn't it? Really, in your house.
Did you guys watch the game last night?
I did.
The game.
The game.
Yeah, I did.
No. Is this Peter's fantasy football?
There was some Rocket League esports on last night. I saw like 2 minutes of that.
All right, okay.
No, I'm talking about actual sport.
Yeah,
live
sport.
kind of physical people running around a pitch doing sporty things.
On a TV.
Terrible. That sounds terrible.
Pete, have you ever been into any sport? Has there ever been a live sporting event that you've said, yes, that's for me?
Hang on.
Yeah,
Before he
I
opens his mouth, can we all guess?
I reckon Pete's a golfing man.
I'm going to
I
say.
reckon he watched a bit of golf.
I'm going to say Formula One.
The thinking man's sport.
That's interesting.
There's a-
That's an
I just imagine him seeing the people there with all the screens and him thinking, also, it's an easy video game.
Yeah.
It's a sport you can easily transform into a video game. So I think he would have got something out of that.
Sure.
I'm going to go with
Kris?
snooker.
Snooker.
The thinking man's game.
Well, it shows how well you all know me.
Because it was really powerlifting.
I used to watch all three of those.
Yes.
All three of them. Love a bit of golf. Watched the Masters a couple of years ago. Whenever I can watch the golf, if it's like on in a pub or whatever, and I'm in there, like I will absolutely watch the golf.
Cancel my plans.
Cancel my plans. I must watch Nick Faldo put a white ball into a hole.
Nick Faldo hasn't played golf in 15 years.
The Dwight York of golf.
But here's the thing.
What pubs are you going into? Is there some sort of tear in space and time where Dwight York's still playing football and Nick Faldo's still playing professional golf?
I go into the pub from Goodnight Sweetheart. So Formula One. I followed that pretty religiously for about 4 years.
Damon Hill, all the
Damon Hill,
stars.
absolutely, the Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher.
Nigel Mansell.
I came out of it just as Michael Schumacher was starting his massive, 11, 12, 13-year streak, or whatever it was, of being Formula One champion. And then snooker is my. I like to sit down and relax and watch that.
It is relaxing.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Pete. I don't follow it at all. Don't know anything about the players, but there's something quite relaxing, just about the physics of it. Same with golf.
I love all three of those. I love absolutely all three of those. And it is fortuitous that you talk about one of those, because golf is one of the things that I have been doing digitally.
Oh.
There was me and Sam wanting to talk about football, and Pete's brought it back round to his story.
I don't think I want to talk about too much, because I think Sam and I are going to play everybody's golf together pretty soon, hopefully.
Okay, your challenge for later on in the podcast, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I'll give you some time to think about this.
Okay, I'll have that. Yeah.
I was in a slightly sort of tedious training session this afternoon, and my finger was hovering above the purchase button of everybody's golf. This has nothing to do with the fact that I got a letter today from my credit card company saying that they wrongly charged me interest and given me a great rebate.
Yes.
But
nice.
So I want you to try and convince me to buy everybody's golf. We can come,
I will.
We can come back. I'll let you ruminate on that.
Have you ever had any interest in football, Pete?
Yeah, I used to play.
Go on.
I used to play for Langton Green.
Langton who?
Langton Green.
Who's
it's a slightly
podgy man.
It's an equally posh area in Kent near Royal Tunbridge Wells, where I grew up, and they had a football team.
Okay.
And I wanted, and I didn't really know where to play. I thought I was quite good in goal, actually. I was pretty
on the
good
pitch
at that.
helps.
On the pitch is good. And so I played in goal for Langton Green for, I think, one match.
Did you win?
No, because I was in goal.
Well, at least you knew. At least you were honest with yourself and didn't kid yourself into thinking that maybe this is something you could be good at. I knew my football career was finished when I substituted myself during a match. I just ran towards the subs bench, making that sign, putting one hand over the other in a rotating motion. I was like, "Nah, I've had enough." Just walked off.
I remember playing as a kid for a team and just kind of getting bored halfway through the match. So just sitting there, kind of just kicking the floor, just kind of just staring down at my feet, kicking the floor, like I'm just bored. And the match is happening around me.
I played for a few teams, but my primary school team were hilarious because the wings were further apart than the actual goals were. and the goals were massively wide, and there was like gravel in the penalty area, so it was really choppy to kind of dive in for the goalie.
This doesn't sound like a football pitch, I'm not going to lie.
Isn't that a rugby pitch? Were you playing on a rugby pitch?
Well, it probably doubled up as a rugby pitch as well.
Okay, so that possibly questions why the goals are really wide and probably not used for diving in.
I remember playing a team in the next village when we beat them 12-1, and the only reason they got that one was that they hit the ball and it bounced off my face into the goal.
Was Pete in goal for the other team?
I love the fact that in some council ledger somewhere that score is recorded and it's like the perfect day, and then this one like K Derby brackets O.G close brackets.
Eating all the half-time oranges.
But I bought 11 sandwiches.
At least I wasn't in charge of the pre-match meals. Here's your sandwiches and crisps and yogurts. Now go run around.
They're running off the pitch and the officials are there with Frubes. Like, instead of a water bottle, just like... Yeah. just squeezing a Frube down themselves.
Mainlining fromage frais.
Don't spill your fruit corner.
A player's injured on the ground. It's just like massaging like some petit falou into their leg.
Like, I remember the fact that if a child didn't have shin pads, the teacher would just give us newspaper.
What?
To kind of fold up and stick down your socks.
Yeah, that's like a really old kind of... That's the kind of story that you hear of like the kids like in the war.
In Pete's Goodnight Sweetheart pub.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to generally have that. Yeah.
I'm actually hoping to go and have a golf lesson at some point. I would really like to go and
isn't this?
do that.
This is brilliant. This is. Oh, Pete, you were telling me this when we met up in Bristol just the other week that for your birthday you're taking a week off. And you're doing you're having a different life experience every day of that week.
Every single day.
Hang on. Have you got a plan as to what they will be? What's your itinerary like?
So I've got like a hit list of stuff that I want to try.
One of them is being a hitman.
One of them is being a hitman. Yeah, gonna shave my head and put a barcode on the back of it. So basically,
and
there's
kill people.
Oh, yeah.
Save that for the last day.
Yeah. So there's basically a bunch of stuff I'd really like to try out. I'd love to go and because I've been on a golf range before to driving range.
Driving range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Driving range. And I'd like to go and have a lesson. I'm going to go. I'd also like to do a snowboarding lesson because I've never done snowboarding before. I'd like to go into the dry ski slope and go try that out. There's a local place that does fencing. I've always wanted to try that as well. And then there's like a bunch of other like fun things.
You seem to have picked 3 things that need more than one lesson.
He just assumes he's going to take to it like a duck to water.
I don't know how much you're going to get from one lesson of fencing.
Yeah, no, Dan, I'm not saying... Well, I'm not... hold on a second. I've not said, I'm going to go and do a fencing lesson and then I'll be one of the fucking musketeers. What I'm saying is I'm going to go and try this thing and go, is this interesting? Like...
these things, you need to have a few lessons to actually get to grips with it.
Yeah, but you can tell within the first, like... I would say probably first 10 minutes of whether or not you like swords waved around in your face. Do you know what I mean? Like same with golf. If it's not something that comes naturally, if you start throwing the golf club down the driving range, it's probably not for you.
Yeah, but within the first 10 minutes of being kind of having a golf lesson, you're not going to be hitting it 400 yards.
No, but
you might not even hit the ball.
If I'm like, this is infuriating and I don't like it, then I'll just go, well, golf probably was something to just watch on the television then.
And just to let you know, unlike in Everybody's Golf, there isn't tornado cups, which I saw you using the other day.
Can I ask what a tornado cup is? Forgive my ignorance.
So,
a tornado cup. I don't want to go into it too much because I really do want Sam to purchase it. But a tornado cup is, and we'll talk about it another time. Tornado cup is.
I like the fact that Pete doesn't want to talk about it because he worries that it'll risk Sam not buying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I say too much about it, it'll put
I've
Sam
already
off.
said that I want to have the conversation where he convinces me to buy it.
A tornado cup. Well, now we're talking about it. Fine. A tornado cup is there's different types of holes in everybody's golf.
Everyday's golf.
Where everyday's golf. Every day is golf. The game I'll talk about that in a second. But everybody's golf has like normal holes, as in like these are just like normal sizes for a golf course. I don't know what you're laughing about there, Sam. And then it has what are called mega cups, and mega cups are twice as big, so they're much easier to putt into. And then there are tornado cups, which are as big as mega cups, but they also will suck in stuff that comes close to them. And the idea is that it's for sort of improving your chipping from the fairway onto the green, rather than having to do putts and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they're kind of it's kind of a fun spin on it. I think if I was to say, Sam, why you should purchase this, it's because it's a game that feels like it's fallen out of an alternative dimension, where Clap Hands, the studio that makes it, is actually a Nintendo first-party developer.
Yeah.
But Sony snapped them up beforehand and just said, okay, make a Nintendo game, effectively. Make a Nintendo sports game, but here's the budget of a Sony and all of the hardware and all of the fun tech stuff and the budget. Go ahead and make everybody's golf. Everyday's golf.
You really want to make this game that doesn't exist.
I know.
Just like the boring drudgery of golf in a video game.
So the reason I say everyday's golf is, so the game has this thing in it whereby the game is all about unlocking stuff. So there's just tons and tons to unlock every single tournament that you play in, and most of the tournaments are like 9 holes long, so it takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes a tournament, so it's really fun, bite-sized stuff. You are unlocking like hats and trinkets and like earrings and trousers and shoes and clubs and balls and all sorts of stuff. And it's all about unlocking things. And there is an online mode which is very well developed, that every single day there is a bonus course that if you register a 9-hole score on that bonus course, you'll be put into world rankings, and based on the world rankings that you get, you'll get individual items that are only available on that day, only available on that month, I should say. And you'll get one of them for submitting a rank to it. So the idea is that the game really wants you to come back, like an MMO, and do like dailies. It wants you to come back every single day and play a couple of rounds of golf, and then register your score, and then get all of these exclusive items that you're only ever going to get one time. And because of that, they've made this really robust multiplayer. And basically, Sam, I think that this is our relax and talk rubbish to one another sports game that replaces the inimitable Skate series. Okay. This is it, basically.
So the few questions I've got, 3 questions actually. I'm going to write this third one down. Okay.
Go on. No,
so, of what I've seen of it so far, the one thing that's put me off is the fact that everyone plays their shots at the same time,
right?
And is running around the course. Is that really distracting?
No, because if they're too close to you, they basically just go invisible. So you don't see them. It's not like you're clipping through somebody else.
Well, I don't mean it like that. For me, like, the enjoyment of golf is, the waiting to see what your opponent does, or dealing with the pressure of taking your shot first to your opponent.
So there is that. If you play 16-player tournaments, which is the normal single-player stuff that you build up and up and up to get experience, then you see everybody go all at the same time, and you just wait for them to do it. It takes, the first 5 seconds, everybody's taking their shots, and then you can just relax and take your shot. There's also match play, in which you see, you take your shot, your opponent takes their shot and you see what their shot is.
Okay.
So there is all of that stuff if you want it. But honestly, it's not particularly distracting, and I wouldn't want to sit there. And it's no different to the Tiger Woods series, except for you just see them on the golf course doing their thing, rather than in Tiger Woods where it was just like you don't see them make that incredible putt on hole 14.
Well, in Tiger Woods, most of it you're just doing it solo play anyway.
Exactly.
You're out the course on your own.
So
Okay.
It feels much more like you're actually
So
part
one
of something.
question down. So, as you mentioned, like the other thing that I've seen of the game is that you unlock like better balls and better clubs and stuff.
Yep.
So, if I was to say, I don't know, buy this game tomorrow, and we were like, I don't know, say, play at the weekend, would you have access to better clubs than I would?
Yes,
balls?
and I would have access to higher skills as well. So the game has a leveling up feature, whereby if you constantly use a 3-wood, for example, you are very accurate with making sure that your power gauge is always 100%, or your accuracy is very good, or you tend to use a lot of backspin, then you will improve those areas very incrementally. And I'm talking about like if you rank up to level 12 and your opponent's on level 9 for power of a 3-wood, you might get another 6 yards, and that's not enough to make it different. It will just be, it won't be enough to affect the game significantly. The only area I think it maybe might have a little bit of an effect is in the accuracy, but even then, I don't think it's that big a deal. But the kit and stuff like that, you can determine going into the thing what you're actually going to use, and you can just say, well, let's just not use these items. And I'll be honest, I use normal clubs and I use normal balls.
Good. Okay.
That's a quote.
Question 2. Okay, last question. So, like, I've got a history with golf games. There's a great on the Wii. Is where I think they found
one of the greatest.
Their home. It was brilliant. There was one night where me, Dan, and a friend of ours, Kris, were you there as well?
I was there with the mattress.
With the mattress when we were
I
playing
might have been
Tiger
there
Woods
as well.
golf.
I think Gungadin was there. Yeah.
I think I was there.
All right, okay.
Was this in the hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hotel. We're at the top floor of a hotel playing Tiger Woods on a small, like, 13-inch...
Living it up!
13-inch CRT TV. But it's brilliant. But what I loved about those games is that, one, I was generally really good at them.
Sure.
And B, like, you could really take deep dives into the technicals of it, like learn the undulations of a course, like play into wind, play into backspin, you know, deal with like pin high positions and different pin placements. Never any different cup sizes. But
you could also dick each other over, couldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, that was brilliant. Like if you shook the Wii wand, whatever it's called,
Remote,
while someone had taken their shot, like the camera wobbled or something like that, or you could like blow some air across the screen or something. So
great.
So as well as all like the happy jolly Japanese shower you with shit stuff that you get in a game like this, is there also like, is the technical side of it going to satisfy me?
This is more technical than that Wii game, like by a long stretch. Like so, it doesn't have any of the motion control stuff, but it uses a 3-press input method.
Oh yeah.
Like you will have seen in like PGA Tour 94, 96 or whatever.
Like on the Vita version of Everyone's Golf.
Yeah. In fact, the Vita version is very much. In fact, I think they even reference it in one of the loading screen messages that the Vita version is actually kind of a touchstone for them because it did really well. And I think they take 1 or 2 bits of like.
They mention
clothing
that in one of the loading screens.
It's a really weird Nintendo-esque, very revealing game where like they'll talk about, like they'll say things like, "Oh yeah, we've taken this course and this course from these previous games that we really love because we really like them, and you really like them too." It's really strange. Yes, it's far more technical. It's much more So the bright visuals absolutely hide a technically, in both senses, in terms of mechanical, technical level, and technical artistry and sophistication, it is a technically very, very sound golf game, and to the point of, and it's all very rigorous to the point of, I've been playing for probably 4 or 5 hours now, and I can put the ball next to the hole from the tee off on a par 3, and I'll know that I can get there relatively with a pretty good degree of certainty, and that's because the mechanics are so rigorous. Like, if you want to have like tornado cups, then you can do that. If you want to have like slightly silly characters, you can do that, and indeed, I do. But at the end of the day, you need to know your, you need to know why taking a risk and trying to push the ball just that ever so slightly little bit further, and get into an area of the fairway where, yes, you might be on a hill and it might take a weird bounce, but if you can add a bit of spin, then you can remove the amount that it will bounce against that hill and stay within that fairway and be ever so slightly further, slightly closer to the hole from that tee shot. It's very smart.
Did anyone notice how? Thanks, Pete. Did anyone else notice how Pete just like gently slapped the gauntlet against my face during that diatribe? Yeah.
I don't think there was anything gentle about it. I can see the bruise on the side of your face.
I think that on a par 3, I land the ball pretty much every time close to the hole.
All I'm saying is that
it's right, Sam. Pete will burn himself out on the game in a week's time, and you don't have to worry about it.
That's the thing. Like with everything, Pete, I will buy this and we'll play a couple of games, and then you'll text me going, "Oh, I was playing it too much. I'll just
no. That's the thing, and actually, it's
no. Don't try and row back on this, because Pete, there is a litany of games in your wake of things that you've suggested to all of us,
which has filled our shelves as well as yours.
Yes,
Elder
exactly.
Scrolls.
Brink. Let's not forget the most recent addition to all this, which was Star Realms, which, to be honest, has swept through us all like a virus. Like, first of all, I was infected, then I passed it on to Kris, and Dan got a little bit infected, but then I passed it on to Lisa, and then Lisa passed it on to her brother.
I applied the ointment to the rash fairly quickly.
Yeah, and then Lisa's brother's flatmate is now deadly into it, and we all still play. There's a fair few of our listeners that are still hitting me up and playing Star Realms, like they're loving it. And then you, patient zero, have the audacity to make us all buy this app and then go, "Oh, it's getting a bit tired of this now, aren't you?" Like,
I
burnt myself out on it. Delete it.
Do you want to know a little confession?
You've reinstalled it and you've not told anyone because you just want to play on your own.
I just didn't want to open that again. Like, I just didn't want to, like.
It's not Pandora's box.
It is though. But I can see everybody's golf taking up the same position. Not at the moment. I'm playing it loads and loads and loads, but I can see it taking up the same position. Can you just Rocket League takes up, which is
Pete.
Rocket League is sat there, and I play it every week.
Yeah, but this sounds perfect. This sounds like, I'm convinced I'm going to buy it. But can you just stop? Can you just stop and we'll arrange a time like this weekend?
Yeah, right.
To get and then that'll be nice. Just don't
we'll play it.
burn yourself out on it.
I'm not going to burn myself
do with
out.
everything else.
I'm not burning myself out.
He's totally going to burn himself out on it.
Yeah, he is.
Like little Dan with his packed lunch going to the gym.
The great thing about Pete giving us all recommendations to do stuff is that you never
we all
listen.
love.
What?
Yeah, it's true.
That we all loved.
Well, some things.
I think if you really want to dig that hole, there are many things under there that didn't pass that test.
Let's just skip over that. Yeah, go on, Sam.
Well, it's just the fact that you never listen to our recommendations.
Well, what would be one of your recommendations?
Well, there is one thing that I think, Sam, you've mentioned before, I've mentioned before, and has always fallen on deaf ears. Our fellow Kris has started his journey, and this is something I've wanted to talk about on the podcast for a very long time. And fortunately, obviously, we discussed this last episode, and it's clear now Baby is still not here. That's why I'm here. So this potentially is likely
one in,
to
one
be...
out.
This is potentially going to be one of my last podcasts for a while, so I wanted to kind of talk about this, and it's a perfect time because it's just finished, and that is the podcast series, The Adventure Zone, which is hands down, I think, one of, if not the best podcast I have ever listened to, and has
That isn't this one. That isn't this one.
That isn't this one.
Yeah.
And has given me an interest in Dungeons and Dragons as a kind of as a game, as a concept, as RPGs, as overall, which I never thought I would be interested in. And hearing and listening to the story being told and the way the game is played with the people who run it, it's run by three brothers who also do the podcast My Brother and Me, which is Griffin, Travis, and Justin McElroy, and their father Clint McElroy. So there's the four of them that do the podcast. And they play Dungeons and Dragons, and they played this campaign over 69 episodes over, I think, 3 years. It's just finished now, literally in the last couple of weeks, and it is just a phenomenal piece of work. And we have mentioned this numerous times. And Pete, you've not been overly enthusiastic when we have given you repeatedly saying you will like this, this will enrich your life, and your response has been, nah, you're right. What's your reasoning for this? We are your friends. We accept your offerings when you say to us, let's play Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah, let's play Brink. Hey guys, why don't you listen to the Magic Tavern? Or maybe Football Atletico Mints. And we all do it. We all listen to everything. We buy everything.
We all enjoyed it.
We consume it.
We decide it's not for us.
We all enjoy it. Honestly, I just haven't figured a time where I've gone, yeah, I'll give that a go. I've been going through podcasts a lot. Let's say like Magic Tavern. Like I went through that from start to finish, and I really wanted to just get through it, so I didn't want to start anything brand new.
So you finished it now?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you got a little spot open.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there is no fantasy-based story podcast. There you go.
Exactly. So absolutely, now would be the time for me to do that.
Big but.
Except, I just got a load of Audible books.
So they can wait.
No, they can't.
Why?
Because.
Go on.
People read 2 books at a time all the time.
Yeah,
I do.
That's true. That's true. No, I can't think.
And
of
it's also
okay.
it's not the same. Those are two different things. A podcast where somebody's playing a game is.
It's not like Pete. You're cooking tonight. Recipe book. Sorry, I've already started another book.
Let me just sit down with County Monte Cristo, see if they mention any tasty recipes for this evening. And the Count sat at his kitchen and cooked up a nice penne bolognese.
Pete, what's that say over there? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm currently reading something. But Dan,
okay, well,
do you think though, Pete, that you've probably got the same condition that Dan has, which I like to call wireism, where I tell Dan how great The Wire is and it's the best TV show ever made.
Sure.
But the thing that looms over him more than most is A, his stubbornness, and B, the fact that there's been 5 series of it. Each season is about 13 seasons long. You know, that's like 50, over like 60 hours of TV viewing.
Can I just intercede briefly there, just to defend myself? You have many times told me to watch The Wire, and there is a single reason why I have not watched The Wire. And that is the fact that I do desperately want to watch The Wire, but I feel that it will be such a good show. I want to be able to set aside some time to be able to watch it. And I don't want to have to dip in.
Wire burnout does exist, Dan, and it kicks in about season 3, just to warn you.
Well, but I don't want to have to be able to. I don't want to have it as something to dip in, dip out for. I want to be able to dedicate time with it. Just like when I first started watching Breaking Bad, I watched it throughout.
So what you're saying is you found a thing that you really wanted to absorb, and then you just went out and you got into it really big style. Like you got into it like start.
No,
to
I
finish.
didn't. I didn't watch a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad and decide to watch every single film Bryan Cranston ever made. There is a difference between what you do and what I do. I like something, so why watch it?
What's the history of methamphetamine? Yeah. But I can but still I think my point is because obviously Pete knows there's 69 episodes of this. Most episodes are about an hour and a half long.
Oof. It's a little bit of that, and that's a nice phrase, wireism. But actually, I think it's mostly, if I'm very honest with myself and with you, I think it's mostly the same reason that I didn't watch Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Lord of the Rings for the longest time. That other one that's not Lord of the Rings, but is like at least like a grumpier Lord of the Rings.
The Hobbit.
No.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Grumpy Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
He's right.
Staying in reviews. Game of Thrones.
So I think like same with 24. Same with Lost.
Grumpier version of the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Like I think it's partly because I miss being part of the zeitgeist for like the season 1 because everybody's already watched it by the time I hear about it, and so they're on to season 2, and so I'm like, But mostly I think it's because everybody's watching it. Like I think there is a little bit of me that goes, I don't want to watch it because it's popular. Like
you want to be contrary, basically.
Yeah, be a bit contrarian, essentially.
And that's I understand that, but surely when your good friends suggest something, that feeling shouldn't still permeate. You shouldn't still have that feeling of, no, I don't want to do that because you're doing it. We're your friends.
Yeah, because you lose
this. You offer something to us. We accept it. We embrace it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the desire to be the coolest kid on the playground somewhat overrides all of that.
If the coolest kid on the playground listens to a Dungeons and Dragons podcast,
yeah, pretty lame. But no, I will absolutely have. What's this called? Adventures. Why should I be so excited about it? I like the McElroys. They seem really nice. Because I did used to listen to
My Brother and Me.
Yeah, that one. And they all seem really nice. I'm okay with the idea of listening to a Dungeons and Dragons podcast. What is it that sets this Dungeons and Dragons podcast aside from literally all the other ones that exist?
For me, I'd say two parts. One, and this probably is apparent over the course of the entire series rather than if you just listen to maybe 1 or 2 episodes. The DM, who is Griffin McElroy, is a phenomenal DM. Yeah. And he's the story that, like, 95% of the story is his original story, and it's incredible. And he builds in lots of different stuff. But the other side is with a lot of kind of popular podcasts, and it's because they are brothers and their father. It's the interrelationship, the laughing, the joking. That's what makes it interesting. And they have such an easy chemistry that it invites you straight away. I'd listen to 1 or 2 episodes of My Brother and Me. I wasn't that kind of familiar necessarily with their personalities, but it didn't take me long at all to get into Adventure Zone because very quickly you get to know the dynamic of that group. And that's, for me, that's what puts it kind of head and shoulders above other Dungeons & Dragons podcasts and just other podcasts in general.
Is it a comedy?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
It's a bit like listening to one of our Dread encounters. We take it a bit seriously. There's a rules there. We follow the rules. We take them, but we kind of flirt with the rules slightly. And there's wonderful bits of coincidence and just wry humour that kind of goes through between that. And it is effortless to listen to, actually. There is Dan kind of coached me through it. There is the first episode, the pilot, which is basically world building. If you're not interested in the world building, you can just skip, I think, to episode 2.
They do, yeah. They also released an abridged version of the first episode, which cuts a lot of the setup out of it. If you're not interested in that, if you're interested in the kind of the Dungeons and Dragons game and kind of setting up for that, then that is interesting to hear this group of people put it all together. And it kind of, if you're not familiar, that's, for me, it was really kind of useful to be like, okay, so this is how it works. This is how you set up a character. This is the conversations that happen around that.
And they also toe the line beautifully between not taking Dungeons and Dragons in terms of its mechanics and its rules too seriously, and then also just not being dicks for the sake of it.
Right.
So there's not all of Griffin doesn't necessarily make them, have to be so aware of like how far away they are from a target, or actually, how many moves that they are, action points that they're using up. Obviously, it's not ridiculous, but because they don't really delve too deep into that minutiae, the story just ends up just flowing a lot better, and there's a lot more rhythm. But then they never take liberties with that either. They realise that they are all sole collaborators in a piece of fiction between the 4 of them. It's not the DM versus 3 people, it's 4 people all together. Like, I've heard of a friend of mine and a friend of the podcast, Percival, like he has DM'd for people, and their approach from it is literally just try to push the DM as far as they can in terms of like, we burn the village down, and it's like, well, we steal their food in the village, and it's just like, well, that's not, I'm trying to take you on a journey, guys. I'm trying to take you somewhere, like try and play the game. And because they're all similar, they're all part of a family, they all share the same sort of creative palette and endeavour, and so you really get that sense that they're all working together and towards something. And also their dad's really dorky, and he's hilarious. He just makes dad jokes all the time, and he's like a radio host in his job, so he's got a really incredible voice, and some of the jokes he makes, he's just like generally really inappropriate, and there's some great moments when he starts like getting romantically involved with characters, and they're just like, Dad, oh my god, I'm such a scarred for life, Dad, just stop it.
Because they realise at that point that the DM, who's his son, is going to have to go through a romantic encounter with his own dad.
That's great.
I was very lucky enough to go to Sam's last Sunday.
You were. Everyone's always lucky.
The gift that keeps on giving. And I actually, for those who listened to the last pod, I was meant to be there at that time and that day.
I was just about to ask that.
An improvement by a week or a day or whatever it was.
So we played a range of games, but I think the first one we played was Zooball, which was a game designed by a friend of the show, Duncan Malloy, who's also
Disclaimer.
on the pod. Produced by Osprey Games.
Just for a bit of background, this is the same people that do Odin's Ravens, King is Dead,
Escape from the Islands of Outer Space,
Frostgrave.
Yes.
All sorts of stuff. Okay, cool.
And this is a game Sam bought, and essentially, picture yourself this: a square football pitch, and the same material that one would have for like a Subbuteo, that lovely material.
Felt.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but sometimes, like, because it would get crease, you'd have to ask your parents, with one of them would iron it for you when you were a child, so there'd be no creases when you're playing Subbuteo on it. And then one of your parents would just step on the figures. That would be the end of the game.
Oh, that sounded like it came
I feel
from
like
a
we
genuine...
just kind of stepped into an old memory of Chris's there.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
He stepped into Pete's pub.
Sorry, I just brought up a lot of stuff. We'll get through it.
They stepped on Dwight York, obviously.
And so you've got these like little discs, though. There's no chance of that happening, though, because what you've got instead of these little plastic Subbuteo players is discs. And on these discs are different animals that are kind of almost anthropomorphized, so dressed in sporting gear. And you have each player, you can play it 2 players or up to 4 players.
Got newspapers down the socks and
That's
stuff.
it, yeah, with little on their shin pads. You've got what are the name of the figures, Sam? Familiarise me with those. What are they called? You've got the 2 discs, which are like the goalie. Oh no, the thing you have to shoot into the enemy's tornado hole. You know, you've got like the yellow ones and the ones that are. You've got your blockers.
Right, okay.
And what's
You've got
the other one?
3 blockers and a
Yeah.
scorer
On each team.
Mm-hmm.
And you can either flick your scorer, and your aim is to try and get the scorer into the opposition circle, or you can flick all 3 of your blockers to try and shield your circle from them trying to kick and flick their scorer into yours. And when I looked at it, and we talked about this before, initially I was thinking, I'm not sure this is my cup of tea.
Yeah.
And then I played it.
Right.
Because when we think of dexterity games, for me, my most recent experience of dexterity game is a game like Flick 'em Up, which Sam also owns and introduced me to.
Which I will say this. I didn't think I would like dexterity games, and I really liked Flick 'em Up. So I'm more than prepared to give this game a go.
Well, you know how Flick 'em Up, where basically it's the Wild West and you're flicking back and forth figures trying to take down the enemy. There's a lot of kind of stop-start as you're trying to size up your shots.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit stilted. Zoo Ball isn't that at all. Zoo Ball is fast, it's frenetic. Because it's a square pitch, you can walk around it quite easily, kind of going, just flicking frantically. And the games are really quick. It's the first of 3 points. And I really enjoyed it. It started to evoke in me those memories of Subbuteo as a child. That enjoyment.
Is it turn-based?
Yeah. Well,
it is.
Yeah, so one person flicks either their scorer or their 3 blockers, and the other person flicks theirs, basically. And because of that turn base, what it does is that when you flick your blockers, you're almost making a declaration, and on that turn you're playing very defensively. And if you're really clever, you can get yourself into a position where you can flick your blocker into your scorer and use that and you can score that way as well. So there are like defensive tactics that you can use to actually get a goal. But because you've got that sort of very binary decision of I'm going to use this turn to either shoot for goal or I'm going to use this turn to play a defensive manoeuvre, the game is always in this constant ebb and flow of, oh my God, I'm defending. Oh my God, Kris is going to score. And then something happens and that tension relieves and it's just like, right, now's my chance. Right, I'm going to go on the attack and pin your opponent back against their goal. And the game is always just like going back to talking about football. Like football's always at its most entertaining when you're going end to end. When there's a chance at one end of the field, then there's a chance at another end of the field. And that is what Zoo Ball does really well in its simplicity. The 4-player variant sounds really exciting as well, because how that works is on the same felt board you've got 4 goals, 4 different coloured goals in each of the corner. Everyone has the same amount of players on their teams. You've got the same 3 blockers and 1 scorer. You can only score by getting your scorer into the goal on the opposite side, on the diagonal side of the pitch. But because it's first goal wins, you've also got to defend the other 3 goals.
Brilliant.
So because of that, and I'm yet to play a 4-player game, but already in my head I can just imagine how that flow of defence and attack is just heightened in a 4-player game, when really you just got to be on it in terms of actually defending not just your goal but 2 of your opponent's goal, while also trying to score in another goal across the way. Like that, it is beautiful in its simplicity, Zoo Ball.
Okay, so this okay, so there were 2 things that really put me off this when I first saw it, and it was the Flick 'em Up thing. And actually, you've explained it as a game about essentially that boils down the theme to sort of breaks within in football. Is that what it's called? Breaking? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, sort of counterattacks.
Counterattacks, and that actually sounds really, really exciting.
And it doesn't outstay its welcome either. It can be a really frenetic game, even if it is turn-based.
But the other thing that slightly put me off is the art.
Okay.
So the art looks a lot like, and I don't necessarily think it's bad art, but it reminds me a lot of what is it? Is it Animals of Farthing Wood?
No, I think I know Richard Scarry's Big World of Adventure. You know, where all the animals like lived in a big apple and flew around in helicopters.
Right. Yes. Reminds me of that, and I just think it's a personal taste thing where I don't think I like that. I like that.
I can see that about the art on the box, but the art on that you then stick onto your... So as part of... And this is a really nice touch, and it's kind of something that's, that's like a stick of rock through Osprey in terms of like the components and thinking about the player experience that they nail every single time, is that you're given enough stickers to make 6 teams, but you're only given us counters to make 4. So you can really make the team bespoke to...
Oh, that's nice.
Like either different animal groupings or different players that you might like. You'd like, I never figure a penguin and a hippo would be on the same team with each other. That's hilarious. And the actual art on the actual stickers themselves is, I think, a better demonstration of that style than the one that's on the box
big
art.
Box art. So okay, that sounds really good then.
Because to be honest, Pete, I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to art in games.
You are.
I really am. Sam knows this. Cause Battle Line's a great example. Great game, but I won't buy it because I just don't like the art. But not a problem with me and Zubal.
Okay.
And I agree with you on the art, but it's not a problem. It's just a nice novelty. I mean, Sam had a penguin as his scorer. I think it was a beaver or an otter.
Yeah, it's really thematic because at the end of the day, you don't worry about the art. Instead, you start imagining actually what's happening on the pitch because all the scorers are really small, slight animals like penguins and otters, and all the blockers are quite large, like giraffes and hippos and lions.
It's like a rugby match.
You really do imagine this pitch where there's just like these massive, like a hippo faces up against a tiger and like they're wrestling with each other, and they don't notice the penguin that's going between their legs and like running to the
it's like bedknobs and broomsticks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I really liked about the game. It's like you have these, and it comes back down to the mechanics, is you have these moments where blockers clash against blockers, and then just a hole appears where this little penguin like dashes through and scores a goal. It's really good.
I've had 8 Minute Empire for about a year and a bit now, and I played it once when I got it, and Alex and I didn't really like it. It's a competitive game, and we don't really like playing competitive games together. And it was fine, and I was like, fine. Then recently, a friend of the show, Greg Giddens, came over. We had a lovely day, and we played 8 Minute Empire because I'd sort of emotionally bullied Alex into letting us play it. And she was like, all right, fine, if you'll show you. And we started playing it, and it was great. It is a worker placement game in which you have a small little map in front of you, and above the map are 6 cards. And each of these 6 cards costs a certain amount of coins to take. Once you take one of those cards, you immediately then perform one of the actions on the cards, and so that will be, for example, put some armies onto the map. It will be move some of those armies. It will be form a settlement. It will be remove an opponent's army, and then you then add it into your hand, or I should say, you then add it into your pile. And there's resources on those cards. So, for example, there's iron and diamonds and I think carrots and stuff like that. And then at the end of the game, you can get victory points based on how many of those specific resources you have. But you also get victory points on how you've conquered the island in front of you.
It sounds a little bit like kind of like Civilization meets The King is Dead. Is that, am I on the right path?
It's much more towards King is Dead than Civilization. It's not nearly
in terms of Civilization, the scope of continents and regions, stuff like that.
Yeah, yes, okay.
The King is Dead element of kind of playing against each other to win regions.
Yes, definitely. It's much more King is Dead than anything else. But yes, large scale regions and so forth. And you play all of this with little wooden cubes, and the as the game suggests, 8-minute Empire, it is a very quick game. It's not as quick as 8 minutes. I would say I've never played a game that lasted less than 15, but it's a very quick, strategic worker placement and card taking exploration game. And I played it again. I loved it.
Okay.
And that was great. And then I noticed that there was a company doing a digital version that was coming out soon, and I was like, oh, okay. And then, literally an hour before this podcast recording, the people that make it, Akron Digital, released the iOS version because I had it wishlisted on Steam, and so I downloaded the iOS version.
Is this the new thing?
This is the new thing. Don't shake your heads. This is, so this is it's the exact same game. They've really replicated that well. It's very segmented turn-based. Everything you do is within your turn. So it's absolutely built for online play. It is it's not a Euro game because you can attack your opponents, but it's very, very passive in that way. There's not a lot of attacking your opponents. And the digital translation has been really, really faithful. I've played a couple of games of it, and let me tell you, 8-minute Empires is too long. That thing is like 5 minutes a game, and it is brilliant for it.
Really? Like that's the thing. Like, the way you're describing it, I can't... Because the way you describe it seems like there's a delicate balance between going for the resources or just trying to conquer. So that sort of Catan-esque sort of balance of, do you just go for victory points and kind of like getting a nice balance, or do you just go for overall dominance? And like, I can't, in my head, like, I can't see how that fits into a nice sort of tight 15-minute
So
experience.
the reason that it is so quick is because there's only ever a limited number of turns. If you're playing in 2 players, it's only 13 turns. If you're playing with 4, it's like 9 or something like that. So the game is automatically limited. So there will be whole regions. Sometimes there's even whole continents you just won't explore. You just won't go anywhere near. Whereas... I mean, if you want to sit down and take your time with it and really think about where it is that you're going to go, then it works in that capacity as well. But being translated into a digital experience really streamlines a whole bunch of that. And most importantly, actually streamlines. Do you know what one of the best things about the Ticket to Ride game was? Let me tell you, it was not having to count everything up at the end of the game. That is super tedious in Ticket to Ride. And in 8-minute Empire, that end bit is equally, for me, is equal, like somebody who's like, jittery, can't count. Like, to me, that last bit is the bit that I'm like, I could do with this being automated. It just streamlines all of that. And it's good from what I've been playing of it, and I'm going to play it a whole bunch more.
And get burnt out on it.
It's $4.99, so if we want it, we have to pay for it.
Exactly.
No, never again.
It's so here's the thing. It's iOS, Android, Steam, and it's all cross-platform. So again, it's play with all your pals, like in Star Realms. It's very, very good. I'm going to play it a little bit more before I start.
But this is the thing. But this is the pattern. It starts all over again. You got burnt out in Star Realms, couldn't play it, had to delete it. Now
you've already got something now that's going to start taking over. That's going to start taking you past everybody's got.
But this didn't happen with Ticket to Ride. We played a couple of games, enjoyed it well enough, and then we're sort of like moving away from it now.
Yeah, but you also did say, "Shall we buy the expansion?"
Yeah,
and I did buy the expansion, and none of you did.
Yeah, because we learned.
You didn't give us time to answer the question.
We know how this pattern goes. Mm-hmm. This is not our first time.
Well, fine. But, yes.
Ironically, though, the expansion that Pete did buy would actually probably make it a better playing experience.
Yeah, because it's tighter.
Mm-hmm.
And has a few more mechanics. Yes, I think I think 8-Minute Empire the digital adaptation. I think first of all, the board game, brilliant, and we'll play that next time you guys are all around. It's a small little box and it's great, and you'll love it.
Awesome.
The digital version, I think it is really good, and I'm going to play it a little bit more. And then when I'm like, yes, let's keep playing this, then I will start doing the daily WhatsApp messages of we should.
When I lived in Chester, my local board game shop, I went in there when I started getting into board games again. I said, "What's a good game to play?" And he said, 8 Minute Empire was the best valued game in his shop.
Really?
What you got for the price? It's art by Ryan Lockett who's designed it. He's one of those very rare people. He's also a board game designer and artist. He does all the art for his games as well.
What's his name? I couldn't figure out how to pronounce it.
Ryan Lockett.
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 Okay, I thought it was Lawcat.
History will decide which one will be the one that people will say.
They will look back at this moment to this podcast and they will say, that is where the decision was made.
Well, I miss those. I kind of miss those days when, like, on a Saturday morning, I get like a cereal box and I just eat like frosted shreddies out of the box straight away and watching cartoons. Or
You can still do that, Chris. You're an adult.
Yeah, you're an adult.
yeah, I know, but I'd feel more sick.
The only
now.
difference now you have
My
to buy the
sweet
shreddies
tooth-
yourself.
My sweet tooth is kind of going as I'm getting older. I'm finding like I find I'm much more interested in savoury food and sweet food.
It's all right. They do plain shreddies as well. It's not just frosted.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
Salted shreddies.
Yeah.
I remember once
No.
overdosing on Angel Delight.
Oh, what,
Hey.
literally?
Strawberry Angel Delight. I ate like a packet and a half of it to myself. And that
What,
was
dry?
the biggest I've ever been. No, yeah. I just snorted it down.
I'm just going to wash this down with a glass of milk. Oh, God.
Like what Sam did with squash once out at university.
Oh my god! Yeah, we all remember that story.
Yeah,
when
great stuff.
I used before I go to bed at university, I used to make myself a bottle of squash, but using an old bottle of squash.
Sure,
So you get maximum volume, and at the end,
definitely.
you just like fill it up and take it away with you during the day. And I came home one night, and I must have been drunk or something, and I woke up in the middle of the night and drank from this bottle that was side of my bed.
Yeah.
And mid sort of flow, just gulping this juice down, I realised I was just drinking pure squash. Now, my mum, when I was a kid, told me that if you drink pure squash, you died. And for some reason, this had permeated into me, even into my like early 20s. And I thought,
Sobering lesson.
oh my god, I'm going to die. So I looked at the bottle of squash and worked out in my head how much water I'd roughly have to drink to even it out. Got myself a glass. I was standing in my middle of my room, drinking this water, and then just like jiggling my belly around. Just try diluting it in my stomach.
I'm afraid, Mrs. Turner, he died. Oh, what was it, husband? It was Robinson's disease.
If you've been affected by Robinson's disease,
We're not a bright, particularly clever bunch, are we? Really?
His veins were just syrup.
that was Staying In with myself, Sam Turner, Peter Willington, Chris Darby, and of course Daniel Frost, who at the time of recording was an expectant father, but briefly after we recorded, like a few days, not a few minutes, Dan's first son was born. And it's with great honour and pride that I can take this opportunity to welcome Toby Daniel Frost into this world. 6 pounds 10 ounces of the boy. So congratulations to Dan and Holly. Hopefully Dan will be back on the podcast very soon, but of course he's got very important duties. He's got to try and convince a newborn child how to play Pandemic Legacy. That's it for this episode of Staying In. If you liked what you heard, then please rate and review us, like, subscribe on Twitter, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are picking this up. It all helps to make us feel warm and fuzzy inside. And Dan's got a kid now, so you've got to be nice. Until next time, ta-ra.